Schröter, last but not least, Magnus NORELL. Dr. NORELL is a researcher on international terrorism and extremism. He has authored the report on the Muslim Brotherhood in Sweden that we have spoken about before. And he has both an academic background across Sweden and Israel, as well as a background in military and civil intelligence. And today is going to present something that connects very well to Susan's last point, namely how Islamists are using the current war in Gaza to project and present themselves as the true Muslims. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Now, this is a tight spot. It's late afternoon. I'm the last of 4 speakers who told you that we're really up shit creek without a paddle. And I'm the only thing standing between you and coffee. But I'm used to tight spots. As Tomas was saying here, my background is really makes me a rookie in the room. I do have an academic degree, but my background is in military intelligence and the Secret Service dealing with counterterrorism. So that will affect the way I speak, that will affect the way I talk, and I'm trying to think of how to maybe tweak the speech a bit, considering all the bad stuff we've heard. You know, we're in the dire straits here. What are we going to do? So let me be a bit personal. But a few years after the Israelis pulled out of Gaza, and a few years after Hamas kicked the Palestinian Authority out of Gaza, I was in Beirut meeting Hamas the head of Hamas in Lebanon, Osama Hamdan. Some of you may have heard the name because he's still there and he's still in his position. That was an interesting conversation we had, and one of the things he told me was that by explaining the fact that there really are, you know, the true interpretation of Islam was the fact that they have so much help from the West. And as, you know, I was thinking, and I was saying, how so? How is that possible? And they said, well, there's a lot of people in Europe that supports us. And I thought, really? You know, you do realize that you're representing a terrorist organization? Yes, but there are still a lot of people doing that. And what he was referring to is something that's been touched upon earlier here, the fact that to be so successful as to conflate that kind of militant Islamism with Islam in general is a pretty good feat. They've been very successful. And how is that possible should really be the major issue. How did that happen? How did it become the fact that a terrorist organization so easily, you know, at least to my mind, so easily, especially after October 7th, could present themselves as true representatives of Islam? And I think that's really, you know, the thing we need to talk about here. And of course, there's a lot of explanations for that. But first of all, the way they've been doing this is really not new at all. I think it was Lorenzo who said that they never miss a good crisis. And that's very true. Every time something has happened, they've been able to turn it around. And look at what happened on the 7th of October last year. In less than a day, you know, the narrative switched, narrative changed. The aggressor became the victim, and it that fast. That would not have been possible without the trends already being in our societies. That would not have been possible unless they were just tapping into stuff that was already there. And that's the scary thing here. That should bother us a lot, because I think that explains a lot of why the success they've had to turn the narrative around. That's really skillful. And again, that could not have happened unless, you know, we let it happen. And I think that's, you know, that's really the lesson. How did we end up here? And I think, again, that's another reason why this is the tough spot. So much good has been saying here. There's a lot of tough acts to follow, and a lot of the reasons for this, we've already heard, the reasons for this. But there's it's a combination of naivety, of course, even though I can question how long can you be naive, 10 years, 20 years? Well, yeah, for some politicians that seems to be the case, and for some academics too. There is also, of course, the fact that you do have a group of very real activists, anti-Semites, and people who really do believe this. And then you have a large group that I would call the do-gooders. People who really see on television how the bombs are falling across Gaza, and they say, this is not good. You do need a lot of history to react to that. This is also played into the hands of Islamists, not only Hamas, but Islamists in general, using this. And one of the key features, not only in Sweden, but definitely in Sweden, and I think Sama could support me on this, is the fact that they are very good at being, I'm the guy you should ask. I know how Islam works. Talk to me, ask me, and I can tell you, the story. That's extremely efficient. And again, that wouldn't happen unless we let it happen. So it's really a failure of our own societies to remedy this. And when you think about it, it's not that hard. All of our Western democratic countries have good constitutions, more or less, but they are pretty good. And one of the key features is that, as was mentioned here before, the quote from Navi Pillai, that, it's a case, you protect individuals, not belief system. Now, how hard is that? How hard is that to understand? It's not hard at all. But you're up against a group of people, organizations that are very loud, that are often very aggressive, and pushes you, at least in a country, for instance, like Sweden, it's a great country. And, the way we deal with conflicts, or at least after the Viking times, it's not to go around killing people, actually. Though sometimes I do think that maybe that wasn't such a bad idea, there are maybe occasions, and now we're in NATO, beware. You never know what we're going to do. Anyway, the way to solve conflicts is to sit down and meet the person halfway, all right? Nobody is really happy, but, you can live with that. So what happens when we apply that to Islamist organizations? They say, we demand this. This is what we demand. And, the good Swedes say, okay, we can give you some part of that. And they say, yeah, thank you. You're not getting anything in return. It's a very one-sided conversation. But you avoid, troubles. You avoid a nasty situation. And you will not have a lot of demonstrations, noisy, loud, aggressive demonstrations. So it's a good thing. You keep the calm in society. Undermining the whole structure all the time, undermining the whole system by looking as if you are the polite, cool heads around here, keeping things calm down. What you do is that you're undermining the whole system. And again, as someone who's been dealing with this for way too long, really, at least that's what my mom says. When I grew up, I'm going to do something completely different. I'm going to raise horses or something like that. But until that day, it's amazing to see and to watch that you have to use the same arguments year after year, even decade after decade, when you talk to politicians and academics. And when the message is really, there is a constitution here. I have a novel idea. Follow it and see what happens. It's not going to hurt you. It's not even going to kill you, probably. It might even work. For hundreds of years, we've struggled to get societies that really are good. Sweden is a great place to raise a kid. But it came with hundreds of years of struggle. And when we are presented with a threat, when we are presented with people who doesn't really buy that concept, very often we don't really know how to react. And the default position is to calm down, take it easy, and I'm not from Stockholm, but the idea in Stockholm is that when you hear somebody say that I have to do this because God told me to do it, you said, yeah, all right, let's go and take a drink or something, talk it over. We can't take that seriously, that someone actually is doing this for religious reasons. Now, come on, this is the 20th century. We fail to see that the convictions here are very real. And we fail to see that means that conviction will lead to actions that we can't handle, the way we used to handle it. And it really, I've been doing this for about 30 years, more. So, and it's in a way depressive to think that I've been having these arguments for many, many years. And, there are new politicians, there are new people to talk to, new journalists, and you repeat it, and you think, isn't anyone taking notes here, and pass them on, kind of, thing. And apparently, that's too rare. And we've heard many examples of that. And the fact that the figures presented by I forgot your name, sorry. No, you, the woman. Yeah. Saying that a number of German students didn't really buy into the German constitution. You have the same figures in the countries that have done similar studies that points to this. And instead of raising hell, we tend to shut our eyes and hope it's gonna. If I close my eyes, make me go away. It's gonna go away. Let's not talk about this. And just to make a point about Islamophobia, I don't know if you heard of, but I heard a very good, actually in the Middle East, a definition of that. You know what that is? Islamophobia was invented by fascists, used by cowards to manipulate stupid people. I think that kind of sums it up. So to deal with all this, and forgive me for changing part of the topic here, because I feel I need to give us some spine here. Everything is not that dark. But the way, and the easiest way to do it, is to get some chutzpah and just be what we say we are, free, liberal, democratic countries. That's really the remedy here. And just by way of illustrating that, can I tell you a story from one of my trips? It's also in Lebanon. And it's some years ago now. Before the Israelis pulled out, there was a security zone down south where you couldn't go, but of course you could go there. And I had this, after some efforts, arranged to meet local Hezbollah commanders at a place down south. And that turned into a very interesting meeting. There was about 10 of them, and me and my driver and the guy who helped me organize this, we came first to this house, sat down, waited, and these people were sort of getting in, placing their Kalashnikovs at the door before they were sitting down, and he made a quick introduction, and we started to talk, and very, very soon, I realized that they were giving me the spiel. They were giving me something that they gave all Western journalists, right? The whole blah, 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 blah. And I thought, I went to a lot of stuff, a lot of trouble to get this meeting. Am I going to sit here listening to this crap? No, I'm not going to do that. The final straw was that some of them said that, well, it's in that flag, the Israeli flag. I said, well, what? Yeah, 2 blue lines, one for the Mediterranean and one for the Jordan River. And I thought, this is too much. I'm not going to take this any longer. So I said, oh, come on, what is this? This is stupid. This is so dumb. I've been in Israel, I've been around, I know this. I didn't say, I know this shit, but I could have said it. So don't give me this crap. And you know, they say you can hear a pin drop. That's true. And you know, 5 seconds can be 10 minutes. That's also true. And you know, I could see, though my guide or my driver was sitting behind me, that he became white. And they were looking at me like I was some, you know, weird creature, you know, coming down from the space. But I thought, you know, when you jump in, you better swim or you'll drown. So I said, look, I'm here because I want to hear your side of the story. But don't give me propaganda or crap. I know you know more than this. I'm interested in really hearing what you're after. I'm really interested in what you would like to see here. And this, remember, this was before the Israelis pulled out. And, you know, dead silence for, it felt like an eternity, but of course it wasn't. It was just a few seconds before one of them started to laugh. And that opened up the whole discussion. And of course they weren't interested in invading Israel, you know, liberating Jerusalem. They just wanted peace and quiet. They had families there. They wanted just peace and quiet. I'm not saying this is that fits everybody, and it certainly doesn't fit the Hezbollah leadership. But it shows you how being honest and upfront really can change the discussion. And it also means that in order to get that discussion, you really do need some spine here, and you really do need to be true to what we say we're true to, instead of all the time trying. You know, I'm not arguing for armed conflict here, not necessarily, but I'm arguing for being a lot clearer of what we are, and that is a free choice. You can have it, or you may not like it, because the fact is that every time something like, and God forbid it happens again, but any event, not similar to October 7, but any kind of event, every time that happens, the Islamists will use it. And it's happened again and again and again, so it shouldn't be that hard to understand. So the thing is to counter it immediately instead of waiting, you know. And there's been very few examples of that, but too few examples of that. And if we did that, if we could give that spine to our politicians and everybody else, I think that could change it. Because we do have good countries here. We do have good tools in the toolbox. We don't have to reinvent it. It's already there, but it's not used the way it should be used. And that's the way to counter this, I think. Because, again, it's going to happen. It's proved to be very successful, as we've been hearing all day here. Very successful how they're using the system. And we're letting them use the system instead of putting down the foot and say, no, sorry, you can't do that here. This is not who we are. But for them, yeah, it is who we are. That's why this is happening again and again and again. So some more stamina and some more clear-cut, you know, lines. And again, we're not reinventing anything that wasn't there before. It's just applying what we already have. That goes a long way of countering this. And of course, as someone was mentioning here, stop paying these people. You know, they can raise the money themselves. But Jesus, I mean, this is so simple. We are actually paying people who despise our system and who does their best to undermine it. You know what? This is not rocket science, or it shouldn't be rocket science. You know how again, it's when I'm saying it's simple, I don't mean it that it's not without problems, but it really is simple, because these are arguments that we already have. And these are arguments we use in other instances when we are sort of confronting this. Yeah. Well, I can stop right there, actually, and leave some more room for discussions.